Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to RLAfterShock.
Can we get some hype from the crowd?
Hey! Welcome to RLAfterShock, the longest-running independent podcast in Rocket League for everything that is Rocket League esports in the European scene. I'm the Eternal J, and sitting to my right-hand side is Digital Bacon. How are you doing, my man?
Yeah, I'm doing really good. Of course, we're all lads on tour in Valencia at the moment, and
I'm not sure how much
it.
they can hear of this at home, but yeah, we are currently sitting in a flat in Valencia for the rest of the week, ready to bring you all the action and coverage live from Valencia for the Dreamhack Pro Circuit LAN Bacon. Yes, I said you're sitting to my right. I meant that literally.
I can confirm I am sitting to the right, yes.
Indeed, and we've got a bunch of other guys from the Rocket League esports scene in Europe. Craftman's here, we've got Failures here, Gyro Jam sitting to my left-hand side on his laptop, currently browsing Discord, apparently. And we're all going to be here,
Keeping
right?
up with the girls, that's what he's doing right there, let me tell you.
He's looked at us surprisingly and looks like, what the fuck are you on about?
It's always the quiet ones, Jay, that's
yeah,
why.
Mate, it always is. Yes, of course, as you may have been able to guess, this week's show is going to be all about Valencia. We are talking all Valencia, and I mean, literally, there's nothing else. We haven't gone through any of the news segments.
Otherwise, it's been a shit week, really.
Yeah,
it is
pretty
only
much.
Valencia.
Yeah, it is only Valencia. It's sort of like that pre-LAN build-up where it's just complete silence until we actually hit the event. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to cover all the storylines, all of the results next week, of course. But for this week is all the storylines, all the predictions, everything in regards to Valencia in the pre-show, plus a special little Valencia lottery. We went around our flat, we picked out all the people, also did some substitutes for other people that aren't here in the flat with us, so we can let them play the Valencia lottery and see who we're going to be supporting throughout the course of this. Of course, for EU standard, we're going to be supporting everybody anyway, but I digress. Anyways, Bacon, it has been only a couple weeks since the World Championships.
It has.
And as a result, this one is going to be quite the hype sort of... The hype sort of like post-event, I guess you could say. You know, we've got a lot of the big teams, you know, not only from the World Championship stage, but also from the bubble scene and from the other regions as well that want to be competing. We've got EU, NA, and OCE once again coming out here for this LAN event. And I think we kind of just want to start with Valencia sort of placing in the world rankings overall, I think, more than anything else, because we did say that the World Championship was a little bit of a non-so-great issue with the format and everything. But this one, we've got the same sort of like 8-team double elimination group stage with an 8-team single elimination bracket playoff over the course of 3 days.
Yeah, because when we look at RLCS at the moment, it's sort of like the pinnacle Rocket League by name. When we actually look at the nature, the caliber, the actual competition, we look at Dreamhack, and actually to me, and I definitely know to you as well,
sorry,
it comes down to...
I'm smiling. I just want to just insert myself real quick. I'm smiling because I can hear in my headset all the clicking from the headphones because right now I've given Bacon my old headphones, and essentially like I replaced them because they have this really bad clicking noise. So I want to just give a quick apology to everyone at home of how shit his voice is going to sound essentially, and how annoying that will be. So
well, the sound quality is fine. It's just the extra clicking.
It's just the clickiness. Right?
I'm an absolute bitch when it comes to being on mic and that, because I move about quite a lot, and that's just natural by nature.
I feel like maybe we should have swapped headsets.
Yeah, we should have really swapped headsets.
But anyways, back to Dreamhack, talking about that. Yes, all the big teams are here, and therefore I consider this event to be a very important one in the scale of the grand scale of Rocket League here, Bacon. So the performance, I think, is going to be something to watch for all teams across the board, you know, big and small, because there's a lot of upset opportunity, there's a lot of dark horse run potential, and obviously we're beating out as many teams as you have to beat, as playing as many matches as you have to play in this event. Like again, it's going to be very, very important for each of these teams to make it far.
Yeah, I'm just trying to focus on keeping really still right now.
Even if you keep still, it's not even going to work.
And it's still going, just from me moving my mouth.
Right, well, quick, let's move on. Let's get the show over. Right, we've already just started. Let's go ahead and break down some of the teams that will be attending. For those of you who are not aware of the teams attending, we'll go ahead and run through the group stage for you really quickly for the day one group stage, of course. Yep. We've got Renault Vitality taking on Bremen Esports, Splice taking on Ground Zero, Complexity versus Mount Gang, and Team Solar Mid versus Notorious Legion. In Group B, we've got Cloud9 drawing against Lost Potato, Veloce versus Renegades, Triple Trouble versus the Crazy Crew, and PSG versus Chargam Bim Bam. Mostly a lot of EU teams there, actually. Only one OCE and one North American team in that particular group stage. In Group C, we've got G2 taking on High Five, Ghost Gaming taking on Method, the Bricks versus Aeriality, and FC Barcelona versus Helios. And over in Group D, we've got NRG versus Savet Geneva. Randy Gibbons is... River Rats, there you go. It's abbreviated on the bracket page.
Yep.
Miranda Gibbons River Rats versus the Chiefs Esports Club, Dignitas versus GC Aura Esports, and Rogue versus RCD Espanol. So we're going to sort of break this down to 3 different sections. We're going to go through the European RLRS and bubble scene teams first. We're going to go into the international storylines, and then we're going to go to the RLCS squads over at the top end of the scene. So we'll start with some of the bubble scene teams. And I want to start with Method on this one, because we talked about this last week. Reason are back. A lot of potential for this team. And really, for a team like this, they've only really got Dreamhack events to show off right now. The Gfinity Elite Series is unofficially dead, as is the case where the website removed all references to the Elite Series, unfortunately. Craftman's giving us a thumbs down over on the other side.
And he is silently sobbing away to himself, yes.
He weeps in the corner of the room, as do most of the European scene, apparently, Bacon. But yes, this is their only real chance to show us what they're made of. And honestly, again, we've talked about this team. There's a lot of potential still left in the lineup, Bacon.
There is a lot of potential, but I'm going to be a cynic to this one, because it's been a while since they played together on a team. Well over a year now. These players have developed over time. Their styles have changed a little bit. So for them to just come back, because of course they were still mates, they left on good terms, of course. Moving on to bigger things, you can't blame them. But coming back together, it felt more like this was the best pickup they could get at the time.
Yeah.
And is this actually going to work out? The problem is as well, their group that they're in is incredibly strong. For them to get out of day 1, make it into day 2, is going to be a amazing lineup for them, because Group C for me is by far the hardest group out of all of them.
I mean, they're drawn against Ghost Gaming to start things off. I mean, I absolutely do not. I can't really counter-argue much to that sort of case, that it is going to be a difficult group for them. And again, it doesn't really fix the problems that we've talked about with Method in the past. We said how Ocelon came in, it didn't quite fix things up in terms of Rix Ronde and Burrito B. When Astral came in and he wasn't able to fix the issues with Rix Ronde and Burrito B.
The thing is, we looked at it, and the problem, is down to Rix Ronde and Burrito B. When Astro came in, it looked a lot better because they trusted Astro. He was by far the fastest player on that squad, and last they could trust him to get to the ball on that. The problem with Ocelon before was that he's not the fastest player in the world. I'm looking at Tigre for the same problem, where they might double commit a bit here over this weekend. It could just be a shambles.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not denying that sort of potential. I just think that there's a little bit of what's it? There's like magic in the air around this particular roster. Again, like I've already explained how my own personal biases to the Reason Gaming brand has always been there, and I absolutely love this squad. I think it was a massive achievement for them to win Gfinity Elite Series Season 2. Again, these are the Season 2 champions from that particular tournament circuit, and here they are once again looking to try and reignite that spark. I don't think it's going to be as good as that particular tournament, but I think
as
the
I
potential...
said, it's got to be get out day 1, you've done brilliantly.
Oh, yeah.
If they don't, looking at this group, I would look at it and just go, it's what is expected of them, even if they were playing really well. For any RLRS team to just be put in this group, you're not expected to go through, because they just have such strong RLCS teams in that fold, alongside... we'll move on to the second team here, RLAfterShock. They're a massive...
I have a feeling that this is going to turn into like an in-studio audience sort of thing, which is every single team we talk about, someone's going to jeer and heckle us. But yeah, RLAfterShock, as you say, Tylacto's project. He's made some really big strides with this lineup, We were taking a look at him and Ixo and the way that they played with Astral, and then Astral got called up, and then they brought in another player, and they did also well. For this particular LAN event, they're playing with Sebadam. Now... You're cringing already, Bacon. I can see it right here.
Yep.
You are not happy with this third man.
This is a choice from Friendship, a little bit, and I guess a little bit similar to the Method deal. Now, Tylacto, I said it earlier, is not the fastest player in the world, and the way this roster works is Tylacto just using his big old brain, 200 IQ plays, and he plays slow, more metaphorical. When you look at RLCS players, compare him over to Violent Panda, the 2 other players on the team have to be fast and get into the ball and being the reactionary players, essentially. Sebadam is not the fastest player. He's not up there mechanically. He's more of a full player. So all that speed, all that reaction is going to come down to Ixo, and I think that's just too much work to put on one man, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I remember casting the Dreamhack qualifiers with you and several others. We were taking a look at Reality, and the one thing we praised them for was the fact that the supportive element was always Tylacto, essentially. He's kind of accepted the fact that he's not going to be the star player of the lineups now that he's part of, especially with the likes of Ixo and Breezy being, players that he's playing with these days. And obviously Astral was called up now. He's going to be playing with Dignitas this weekend, unofficially.
I'm getting some proper Chacaron effects from Tylacto at the moment. Just continuously ferrying through the better players. He just stuck, because again, we know with Rocket Rocket League, captains are sort of the ones calling the shots, and he's not the captain of a top team, so he's just giving through new talent for the bigger teams to pick up.
It depends really if he can find a home to be that kind of player, but obviously we've seen that that's a very, very difficult business model to handle in Rocket League, but we'll talk about that another day. I do agree with you on a lot of those points, to be honest. Like, again, the reason why we praise their reality so much was because Tylactor was the supportive element, and he supported...
Oh, he is the kingpin.
He supported the two strikers to allow them to get over to the front line and get goals in it and completely, destroy some of the best teams in the world, essentially. And I don't think that's going to be replicated here on LAN with Sebadan, because now you've got two slow players. Ixo is going to have to take all of the offensive pressure. I imagine that if they set him up correctly, then they'll be able to do some serious damage, but I don't think they'll be able to go through any major names, especially in their group. They're in Group C. Much like the Methods side, and they're on the other side. They're taking on the Bricks first, which I think actually, when you consider where the Bricks stand right now, there is a lot of potential in Aeriality potentially pulling up that upset. I think if there's one team that you would want to start with, it would be someone like the Bricks, but I still don't think it's going to be an easy affair.
No, and I'm favouring probably Aeriality quite a bit here in that group, because we'll go into predictions later for the first days, of course. And I think Aeriality will probably make it out through day one, just due to near enough no pressure put on this team. They've not got an org behind them. So, again, a little bit like Method getting out day one is fantastic, but they have got the experience here. We know Tylacto and Sebadam are pretty happy on land. Like, Sebadam, can you remember from on the old Epsilon roster, going and taking down like the likes of Echo Zulu and that on lands in France and such, and of course the Gfinity experience there from all of them. So Aeriality, I think, are probably going to be your wild card in that group and one of the orgless teams to make it through.
It will still be a difficult affair for them, though. I think we've kind of broken that down enough. So let's move on to our next team to talk about. Civet Geneva, a team
TCS
that we...
plug.
Yeah, TCS plug, of course. Like, we were quite excited to see what Civet Geneva could do, because we've been casting TCS Esports League for the past several months. They were the only team to go undefeated across the entire league play season and the playoffs and the LAN event. They were looking so solid, and we said this is a squad that can seriously do some damage on the international stage. They have a lot of potential. We looked at them to go RLRS, and we were like, yes, it's all going to be them. All's affair, all mirroring, all Yagi.
Record scratch.
Yagi's not part of this lineup anymore, Bacon.
Yeah.
Shock, horror, and the fucking what happened?
Apparently Fortnite. Again, no one is immune to the disease that is Fortnite, apparently.
Shout out Overzero.
Wanted to play that more than Rocket League. And so teammates got a little bit annoyed at that, it would seem.
Yeah.
So they're bringing Virtuoso, who, when we look back to the Renegade Cup and all of that, was actually a really stellar player. So bringing him on here, I'm going to be intrigued of how this changes things up, because I've always said it's Safari, or Safari. If you're one of the Swiss guys, they keep having a go at us, but it's Safari.
It's like
always been
Carapace,
Safari. Yeah. And he has got the drive to make it to RLRS, and he knows what it takes. So picking up Virtuoso, I reckon he sees something in him, and I trust his judgment.
Well, I remember him being on We Not Fit for the Renegade
Yep.
Cup. He competed in the Neon Dream qualifiers, and I think the Thunderdome qualifiers as well. I definitely remember him from the Ember series that we did with Jar of Jam. I remember that. But I remember that he was one of the guys that stood out as one of the names, one of the squads that sort of like actually had a pretty decent standing. But I think that Yagi himself was just a really good player in general. Like, again, he was kind of part of that striking element, and Zafir knows how to handle those sort of striking elements to do some serious damage.
To be honest, that's the shame. I was talking to a couple of like RLRS players and ex-RLCS players and that. Covering over sort because I wanted to go out and see what would actually make the Swiss teams like be able to propel, so it's not just nationally how do they go on a beat, and showing them, Lausanne and Servette, and they all praise Yagi as possibly the next biggest up and comer. You're looking at like Switzerland's Ixo and their Astral, that sort of aspect. But to hear that he's not got the mentality to really put all the drive into the game, and he's going to be dropped for that, is a bit shattering in its own regard. So I hope if the lads listen to it, of course, get your ass together and
well, I think that's more something to say to Yagi than anything else. Because like if he's opted to play Fortnite rather than practice the game of Rocket League, there's a reason why Overzero is a meme. And it's because world champion gone to Fortnite, fucking what is he even doing in Fortnite? Like probably fucking nothing at this
I
stage.
don't know. He cut off his hair and now no one recognises him. That's
Wow,
it.
he cut his hair?
Yeah, he's gone near enough short.
So he's over -1 now. Awesome. Nice to
No
know. But
longer
yeah,
Jesus.
one of 2 puns I've made so far in the
Yeah, I'm
preparation
not
for
liking your
this show.
puns. They're crap.
But yeah, so let's talk about the Swiss Dream then for Servette Geneva. Like, how much does Virtuoso affect this? Do we think that they can still hold their line of form? Can we still think that they can do some damage against the RLRS squads and potentially go for a dark horse run, basically?
I'm really going to be confused about this roster because their first match is against NRG. That is probably going to be a big spanking straight off the bat. We can all accept that. We've never seen Virtuoso play with the other two, so it's all question marks, and essentially, it's just more LAN experience for this team. We don't expect them to go fast, so if they can get a game off NRG, that's fabulous. If they can take down one of the other teams and, make it through to losers round 2, that'd be great, but this is a team we don't really have massively high hopes for because they're relearning it with a new third.
I mean, you take a look at the group that they're in, Group D, and they're up against NRG in the opening match, which is just like, that's a fucking yikes.
Most likely, if they lose that, which they should, they'll probably go up against, GC Aura Esports, or I would imagine RCD Espanyol. And of course, RCD Espanyol was an invited team to this event from winning Dream Cups.
Sort of invited, I guess you could say. Actually, now that you mentioned
Not
that,
winning Dream Cups, sorry, runners up, because Barca won Dream Cup, so the runner-up spot was the invited one in the end there.
I'm not sure that's 100%, but we can take a verification of that later. But actually, I'm glad you brought that up, actually. RCD Espanyol, because this is a team that, I don't think we've seen them do a whole lot in terms of the international space and what they've been able to do in terms of Europe.
Outside of Spain, what is the Spanish team? We don't get to see that unless it comes around to the Renegade Cup or the old Gfinity Cups, essentially, where the Spanish teams would sign up to that because of the money.
Well, yeah, the main
reason
why they're here is because they won the Dream Cup tournament, which is essentially like a sort of like a side extra qualifier for Spanish and Portuguese teams. For those of you who might not be aware, and while for the most part, most of the teams weren't amazing. You mentioned FC Barcelona, but actually to make it through to the to the final playoff against the Portuguese squads, they actually beat ARG. So. I want to say that's an impressive result, but at the same time, I'm also considering where it stands in terms of Spanish, sort of in terms of Spanish Rocket League, basically. Bim Bams, basically. And you compare regional matches and you compare national matches, especially, and you find that even at a lower level in esports in general, the national matches could really swing either way because the play style is so similar. The intricacies are so similar that a Spanish team could very easily beat another Spanish team. So, how much stock do we really have in RCD Espanyol to go far and potentially do something in this?
Essentially, when I look at them, I think quite similar to Servette in the case of them getting through to the losers round 2 will be a great result for them, essentially. But getting out of day 1, no one's going to expect it. So if they do get out of day 1, they've broken all expectations. It's not the most, I want to say, optimistic sort of hurrah behind them, but I'm just going, that's the expectations. I'm being blunt about this, Jay.
Oh, absolutely. I think for a lot of the bubble scene teams and the RLRS teams, day 1, day 2 is as far as they'll go. For RCD Espanyol, they're obviously against Rogue in the first round. And I think that the name value alone can give them a little bit of potential. They've got Mr. Ube there. They've got Steak as part of their team. I think that Steak was actually one of the subs for ARG during the Ember series back when we were casting them. Obviously, that's the nature of the Spanish scene.
This is a team that is on the build, and Mr. Ube is actually one to watch out for that roster. Can you remember when he came back on during the very start of the Renegade Cups? That's when he was near enough introduced to the rest of Europe, and he is a phenomenal player. Again, another up and comer, and I want to see how he's developed over this quiet period since the Renegade Cups finished. It's been nearly 6 months essentially. So what has he done to improve in that time? Because I didn't catch much of the Spanish Dream Cup action, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, it was one of those tournaments that flew under our radar a little bit. I knew it was there, but we never really covered it on RLAfterShock.
I think it's because it near enough took place at the exact same time as TCS, so we never got to watch it.
That too, yeah, it clashed with a lot of TCS stuff, but I'll be curious to see what they can do. I think we'll be watching out for them. They're one of our potential dark horse teams, but I think there's probably a few more that we can talk about. But let's move on to some of the RLRS teams. Veloce, they're playing this week. And they are... with their team, they are just one of those teams that have just gotten so unlucky for the past year or two. With everything going on with their roster swaps, with them being from Team Secret and everything, you sort of talk about them and you take a look at their current line of form, and they were this close. They were this close, Bacon, to being in the RLCS, and they just didn't quite do it. And here they are at Dreamhack trying to see if they can prove it once again. They have got a hell of a run to make happen here. But I want to ask, what's the stock left of Veloce? Have we lost any faith? Do we still believe in this side? What's the general sort of consensus around Veloce?
Veloce at the moment, they've had, with the last Dreamhacks anyway, they've had some... can you remember Leipzig? They got through initially as the Veloce team, and then from the RLRS, they got picked up further with Veloce. And they had what could only be described as a less than stellar, pretty toilet run at Leipzig, unfortunately, because it just didn't go right for them. Here today, tomorrow at this point, when we look at it, of course, their first match is against... Yeah, the match is... against Renegades, for stars. Renegades didn't have the best RLCS, so they could be on a little bit of a slump from that, downer feelings. At any rate, if they move through to the lower bracket, they're going up against competition that should be fairly familiar to them. Crazy Crew, we'd expect Childish Gam Bim Bam probably to drop as well. And Lost Potatoes, I actually have no idea what that team is. So,
Lost Potato.
I have no idea what that team is.
Names, yeah.
So that should be good for them. At least they've got a bracket where they should go through to day 2. But again, if they don't make it through to day 2, what is going on with Veloce? Because that's twice now at LAN where they should have gone through and they just, left a mess in the bed.
The one caveat... mess in the bed. The one caveat that I think is the issue in terms of talking about Veloce is the fact that they've had all this performance online. They've always had the RLRS runs and the potential RLCS.
Well, see, when there's no pressure, they do well. Because again, you're saying they had this all online, but can you remember the playoffs? Again, a big mistake going on there for them because they should have been going through to the RLCS, what of their run of form online. But no, it seems when it comes to crunch time, when it comes to getting to that final hurdle, they trip over, which is a mentality problem. It could just be with that team, and that's a real hard one to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to see what Veloce can do. I have high hopes, but I wouldn't
I
be.
have so much want for this team to finally do incredible.
Oh yeah, no, it's a lot like Triple Trouble. We want Triple Trouble to do so well because they have just such a good squad, and they've shown that they can be a good squad. And it's the same thing with Veloce because they've shown so many signs of potential. They had the 7-0 season, in the RLRS last season, and they still haven't got their chance at the RLCS. It's just like, for fuck's sake, what do you got to do, man? So I'm hoping for the best for Veloce. Let's move on to some of the... let's kind of wrap up the bubble scene sort of squads with all the big bubble scene teams that I've noted who could be dark horses. So I'm going to list off a couple of different team names. We've got Mount Gang, GC, Aura, Notorious Legion, Helios, Childish Gam, Bim Bam, Crazy Crew, Brenman, and High Five as the main sort of squads, and they have some notable players, some notable teams. These are the bubble teams essentially that I think could do some decent stuff in terms of dark horse runs. We've obviously seen the likes of Echo Zulu doing great stuff during Leipzig. But is there any sort of name that stands out to you here that might do damage here?
Yeah, I've got 2 on that list, which would be Mount Gang and Childish Gam Bim Bam. Again, 2 teams which would be coming along to LAN for fun. And when we look at Mount Gang, of course, you've got Mount, Extra, and Itachi. Extra, of course, playing for... Exalti during the RLRS. Thank you, Jam. Actually, just remind me because my mind went blank. Of course, playing with Unknown and that. Super solid French player, of course, Mount is as well. My only problem with Mount is that he's just been playing sub for too damn long. He should have been one of those players that was in the RLRS, prominent team trying to push to get into the RLCS, but I don't know what's going on there. And Itachi's been around so long in the scene. I can remember back in the day, he was on that squad. Christ, I can't remember. I want to say it was Existence or something. Back during season 3 of RLCS, where they lost their spot because he's from Morocco. Thus, he wasn't actually legally allowed to play, or by legally in the rules, allowed to play in RLCS Europe because he's not an actual European player. And so they lost that spot, and it went over to Red Eye in the end, I do believe. So it's one of those ones of he used to be such a fantastic player. I have not seen him play probably in the last 2 years now. what's been going on with him? Can we finally get to see him on stream or, well, on the B stream maybe? Who knows?
I'd like to.
I'd love to.
You know, I'm not sure if the play area is actually accessible to the public. Hopefully we can get back there and have a look, see what's going on. Fingers crossed.
I think we can just it's like sectioned off BYOC thing, so we can just look down the line, get out the goggles, and try and peer on someone's screen.
I think next time I'm gonna apply for an aftershock
press pass. Yeah.
So we can try and get backstage and see what's going on with all the teams and bring you as much of the coverage as possible. But yeah, Mount Gang. I mean, yeah, as you say, Mount's been on the sub role for too long. Like we saw him, I think subbing in for Reno Vitality a couple seasons ago, and obviously there was that infamous run at the rival 1K Cup where he teamed up with Scrub Killer and Fairy Peak, and they did that insane run.
And this was like before Scrub was confirmed for Vitality. We were like, oh, Scrub and Felly can actually play together, and then
Mount
of course with Pashi they just didn't.
Yeah, you know, and with Mount himself, like even in part of that team and competing with those two players, we obviously seen what they've become right now. And you look at them and it's like, okay, well, yeah, where's the love for Mount in that one? And for this particular team, like I'm not really sure if they can actually make that whole run happen. But I do admit that they're fucking really, really good. And I think this could be
probably an overlooked team, or well, I'd say it's overlooked. If you look on Reddit, everyone's raving about them, but that's purely for memes. This actually could have a serious contestant.
Seriously. You know, I've seen a lot of people just say, "Oh, Mount Gang, ha ha." No. There's actually might be Mount Gang. Oh fuck yeah, mate. So keep your eyes on those guys and keep your eyes on Childish Gambim. You picked them. That's Tedder, Freeze, and B-Peak. Tedder earlier this week said he was going to start slowing down on the Rocket League competitive stuff. Understandably so. I mean, you know, it's not exactly the biggest esports scene in the world. Most dedicated, but not the biggest. So talk to me about Childish Gambim, Ben. Why did you pick them?
They've just been consistently putting on performance, and this roster has played together for ages. You know, on and off, going into different rosters as it was, but this is just such a friendly atmosphere. Like I said, you're going to be looking at another one where there's not much expectations put behind them, but in their group, in Group B, they could just sneak out a win. Like we said, this is the group where there's a lot of possibility to come out on top if you play your cards right.
Yeah, so keep your eyes on those guys as our main sort of bubble scene representatives. A lot of bubble scene teams, of course. You can catch any of the other guys, of course. The Crazy Crew boys, Brewman, High Five, Notorious Legion, CG Aura. All some pretty notable names in their particular squad.
I just love how you say Bremen there.
Bremen?
Where's the U?
Bremen? Whatever.
Where's the U, Jay? Come on.
Right, okay, I'm dyslexic. You know this. Right, let's move on to some of the international squads because we are an EU podcast, but this is essentially World Championship equivalent sort of World Championship in the sense that it's the worldwide thing. There's loads of different teams from OCE, from North America. Unfortunately, not Sam or not Asia.
Yet.
They're going to be in Montreal, though. I'm fucking hyped as shit about that one, though. Like, oh, my God. We'll talk about that in a future episode of the podcast. But for now, let's talk about some of the cross-regional storylines coming in to the Valencia land, because there are a plenty to talk about. Particularly, I'm going to start with OCE, because this is the first LAN event in World Championship or Dreamhack or any other open tournament history where we will see 3 OCE teams in competition for this one baking. We have Renegades, we have Chiefs, we have Ground Zero, and these, for all intents and purposes, are the top 3 from all of OCE, yo.
So got Crafters in the background chanting OCE. But yeah, when we look at this, of course, coming into this, Chiefs, Ground Zero, sorry, Renegades.
I really wish we had a camera on the live stream for this one, mate.
Had a less than stellar RLCS. Unfortunately, don't get me wrong, that was expected at Ground Zero, but Renegades, if we look back to my predictions, I was the only one that thought Rogue would outdo Renegades. Everyone thought they would make it on through. And again, that was a general consensus from the majority of the public. So Renegades having a less than stellar time there. This has either got to be, I want to say, their comeback, essentially, where they're going to do fantastic and it's going to put all those worries away, or those worries are going to be there to stay. And you got to remember, this used to be the roster, of course, with Jake and Drippe. Now it's only Torsos from the original Alpha Sydney roster that blimey was a while back. Yeah. But looking to this, it seems to be very much a shadow of its former self, a shadow of the team that, remember, made it to 4th at Worlds. And now they were struggling to make it into the top 8. And looking here, they might even struggle to make it out day 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the easiest affair for OCE teams, but I think a lot of people, when they look at the OCE region and their representation here at Valencia, it's like you gotta look at the opportunity to expand even further than just the 2 teams at Worlds, for example. Like, obviously we want to push for 4 teams at Worlds because that's just the way that we like to do things.
Oh, yeah.
But with OCE, the main issue that they've got right now is to try and prove that they are worthy of having several teams there. And they've got 3 squads here that have potential to make good runs. I don't think any of them are in the same group, if I recall correctly.
Nope.
So there's a chance that they can all make it to day 2 if they really wanted to. It all comes out to the ceilings at that point, whether they can make it any further, Bacon. So let's talk about them for a moment here, because I wanted to ask: do you see potential for them to make a decent run, to potentially go forward a little bit, and do some damage in the group stage and potentially further?
Renegades is probably your best bet looking at Group B again. Like I said, that's the group that probably is the easiest for any team. That's why I was saying like Childish Gambit, Bim Bam or Vloche could make it through fairly well. Renegades, that still applies to them. When we look over to Group A, Ground Zero have got Splice first of all, and then they'll probably, again, that's your second best bet. But when we go to Chiefs, they're down in Group D, and I don't think that's probably going to be the easiest group there, because of course you've got River Rats in there, you've got NRG, you've got Dignitas, you've got Rogue, and Dignitas will be on a massive up. I reckon Astral's just going to absolutely propel that team. I wouldn't even be, shot down to believe that they'll come out top 4. I have big expectations for Dignitas this weekend. Rogue are on a complete and utter up at the moment. They're on a massive high. They broke everyone's expectations at LAN, and, bar me, that's what we expect from now going on. That's what I expect anyway.
Humble
I could
brag,
see that, I could... Look, you win a prediction contest, you win a trip to Dallas, you can brag all about it, of course. But moving on here, I reckon Rogue could make day 3 if they play their cards right. They are just on a complete upwards trajectory here. And Chiefs, they're going to have to put on something stellar, because there are 4 stacked teams there. And I am including the River Rats to that one, because we know when a team's just completely coming out of the woodworks. You've got Turbo joining the other 2 lads from the previous EG roster. And that could just be a random magical moment this weekend that could lead to something incredible.
Yeah, I agree. I want to see some good stuff out of OC. Whether they actually do it is another very difficult affair. Again, I'd say that probably the best bet right now is to look at the Renegades.
Yep.
Because they are...
Point being, though, OC has to have a team that move into day 2, otherwise...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This is the darkest timeline for OC going forward, essentially.
Out in last place at the World Championships, and now here at Dreamhack Valencia, where it's even tougher competition, you still can't make it forward. It's like, especially if Renegades get really unlucky and there's like an upset where PSG or Triple Trouble drop into that lower bracket, and it's like, oh god, now you're really fucked. So let's have a bit of a pray for OCE fans across the world as we see how well they'll be able to pull things out of the hat here. Again, ideally, we'd see 2 teams in day 2, and that would really be proof in the pudding to see them go forward and do even more stuff in the world landscape of Rocket League. But let's move on to Cloud9 next. A disappointing World Championship, I guess you could say. I mean, disappointing in the sense they lost to the eventual winners. They made semis, but I think a lot of people had them pinned to be finalists. Especially when you take a look at our prediction game, where it was either NRG or Cloud9 being the guys to do that.
Let's compare both NRG and Cloud9 right now in the same step, because again, you were saying both those two. This should have been near. That RLCS should have been sort of the LAN where it should have been an All-American final. That's how I was feeling, because America was actually stronger going into LAN, because we had Vitality on very much a slump right beforehand. And like we were saying, Barca, the only other team from EU that we thought can make it up to the top, doesn't necessarily do good on the last day at LAN. Again, they've got a massive last time crunch problem going on. Let's hope that changes this weekend. I'm near enough home turf for them, essentially, just by name, of course. But looking at these 2 teams, NRG's got a massive problem, what with this being Fireburner's last LAN, and Cloud9 coming on over. They're in, I would argue, a bit of a slump at the moment, considering, again, a lot of expectations, a lot of weight has been put on them, and a lot of weight to near enough come out winning here at LAN, I reckon that's got to be a lot of stress, this Cloud9 roster.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly are one of the teams that we put in that picture of like, right, they're probably going to be the North American team to contest for the World Championship. And again, as you mentioned, Fireburner's going to be out after this LAN. Like, I'm not sure what the mentality is for NRG. Like, it depends really on your personality, right? If you're going to say, all right, this is my last tournament and I want to go out on a big hurrah, then maybe that could spur you. Maybe it could just be like, well, I don't really give a fuck because it's my last LAN anyway, so who the fuck cares?
NRG win Valencia, and essentially Fireburner goes, hold up. No, I actually want to keep playing. That's my phone going off. Let me turn that off. That's fine.
That's a big oopsie from Mr.
I don't
Bacon.
know that number. Who cares?
Fair play. I don't even blame you for that particular thing. But yeah, no, I'm glad you actually mentioned NRG because that's a good segue to talk into our next point because we had heard rumors. We had heard rumors. We teased those rumors that NRG were going to be making roster changes. So, I mean, I don't think it was the specific roster change that we got leaked.
No, this is what worries us because we're not going to divulge what those rumors were, of course. But it means NRG are at the moment in a bit of a spot of the team probably don't know what is going on, and I've got a sort of headless chicken vibe going on from them.
Well, let's talk about the future for NRG, because obviously this tournament may or may not be a throwaway for them. Like, I'm not sure how much you can take away considering that Fireburner is retiring. Again, I mentioned the two mentalities that you could go down, the two roads that NRG could be taking in terms of how they perform and how they treat the likes of Dreamhack Valencia. But I want to ask about the future for them, because with Fireburner leaving, that could throw this entire roster into complete disarray when you consider the North American talent pool and what they can pull from. It's like, fuck, man. Where do they go from here?
You're saying what's the North American talent pool? Where can they pull from? It's fucking NRG. They can pull from anyone. Anyone would just drop Trow and just go straight in for it. It's NRG after all. So I don't think it's the massive problem there. The problem is going to be, are we going to get a Dignitas effect? That is my worry, if anything.
Well, for me, that's the thing I was kind of talking about. Because it's like, I'm talking about talent that you have to pull from, as in, like, like North America's talent pool, and who would be a good fit for NRG most specifically. Like, how are they going to handle themselves? How are they going to contest and keep their spot as a big three team? Because let's be real here, Fireburner's a legend. Fireburner is Rocket League royalty, essentially, and you're throwing away a massive component to what NRG, to what makes NRG. And this could be, again, like you say, a Dignitas shift where it could mean that a lot of things happen in the North American scene, and a lot of things potentially knock NRG off of being one of the big three in North America.
Then again, the move that I could see might come up would be absolutely fine from NRG. It just comes down to whether that playstyle works. Of course, coming into, again, this LAN, the reason why the Americans were so strong was just because of the playstyle difference there, And if they bring in a new player and that playstyle, which they form together, just does not form up against the rest of the region, how is that going to play? It's a tricky one. We don't want to, of course, give off too much and predict too much because it's all up in the air at the moment. Like I said, I don't think the team actually knows what's going to happen. And how are we going to speculate upon that when we can just look at it and go,
well,
they're up Shit's Creek.
Well, they may well be. I mean, they still are one of the four favourites to take it in Group D. I mean, their run should, in theory, be relatively good. The only real team that could give them a challenge is Randy Gibbons' River Rats.
I think they'll actually knock them down. I can see the River Rats. I reckon they're just going to blow everyone out of the water, essentially.
The River Rats, serious? Yeah. I mean, I guess we can talk about that particular team then. I guess we can move on to sort of talking about Randy Gibbons' River Rats. Evil geniuses may have just been evilly dumb to let go of an RLRS spot and a spot at Dreamhack Valencia. Yeah, fuck you too, Craftman.
I understand it, because we've always said it. It's RLCS or nothing. And the problem was that Splice had just played this as well, going picking up the peeps. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But it comes down to EG coming into this, not coming into this because they dropped their roster before, which we did not expect. We thought it would be, after Montreal, EG drop their roster. That's what we were speculating anyway, because, again, on the cards, RLCS or nothing, or they sort of try and phase in, pick up another roster, and move over Drippe. Drippe was, of course, going to stay with this unless someone else can buy out his contract and then sort out a new visa for Drippe, which, of course, is a massive amount of effort. It's the whole reason why EG are keeping a hold of him, because they put that money into him, thus they can just throw him onto a new roster. Hence the whole Ghost rumor was that they would drop probably Left and put, again, after Left was playing with RBG Esports and like the rival pool party and all of that sort of, all those sort of ones. So just coming into this, Ghost are absolutely fine. We've got them playing, of course, and we'll talk about them in a second. But the rest of the EG roster, this is them, I would imagine, probably having the last who are. And what they need to do massively is make a deep run into this to probably get a bit of money themselves so that they can go and pay for themselves to get to Montreal, because they've got no secure way into it, really.
Yeah, no, unless you go through the open qualifiers, obviously, which is going to be a tough challenge in its own right. But the main thing for me, and the main reason why I wanted to draw attention to River Rats, is the fact that Mr. Three-Time is going to be a part of their team. Turbo Pulsar.
First time in history that an EU player is playing with NA players at LAN. It's been done online, of course, but at LAN?
I mean, online between cross-regions, like, fuck that.
Yeah.
No, at LAN, this is the first time we've seen EU NA
technically, Speed did it from America in League play, but...
Right, that doesn't count. Okay.
We saw that loss there, of course. But looking at this is new territory, and it's a moment in history for Rocket League, which is absolutely fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean... the next thing to talk about then is what potential do we see in Randy Gibbons' River Rats? I mean, Turbo certainly is a very reputable player of his own, right? Corrupted and Classics are also very reputable. Obviously, Mr. Three-Time Turbo Pulsar is a contender for one of the top players in the world, one of the best that have ever touched the game. What do we see him being able to do to this team to potentially give him a decent shot? I mean, you mentioned earlier you think they could upset NRG. Why do you say that? Why do you think that?
It's the potential, because, of course, what we saw at the last Dreamhack in Dallas, the power of Corrupted G and Classics together, of course, with Drippe there. Turbo Pulsar actually plays a very similar style to Drippe, so hopefully it should just merge. But again, this is either going to be a beautiful blazing, bonfire, or it's going to be a trash can fire. Like, it could all go completely wrong, because we know Turbo gets frustrated. He's not one really to talk, it seems, and that could hurt the whole team chemistry, and essentially they're being thrown into the deep end with this team.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it's certainly a very difficult prospect, but I want to talk about positives for this team, because let's be real. That's what we want. That name value alone, like that's pretty fucking baller, Bacon.
It is. Like, you look at Corrupted G and Classics, they've been near enough staples of the RLCS scene in America. And then you've got Turbo Pulsar, like you said, the free time. I think the only other player, and it is now confirmed, that can rival him for that is fucking K-Dop. And that is two players in the world that can hold that title. And he's on the team. That is, just name value enough to be able to put them forward. But that's just on paper. Does it actually happen on the pitch? We have to find out tomorrow. Yeah,
they'll be taking on the Chiefs to begin things off. Probably NRG as well, if the seeding is correct, which I think is roughly all right. Not amazing, but all right. It's all right. It's okay.
Again, lower brackets should help them there.
Of course. But yeah, no, I mean, again, I'm quite excited to see what this team can do, because, again, it is such a groundbreaking moment in Rocket League history with the EUNA sort of crossover stuff.
It's the bias that's overclouded my judgment, I think, here, where I want them to do so darn well. Right. But you look at it, it could just be a trash can fire.
When has bias ever affected our judgment, Bacon?
Does yours, like, every single day?
All the time, exactly.
No, I try and stay away from it. Try being the key word there.
Right, let's move on to talking about Splice then. The peeps, I guess you could say, more than it's
pipes.
The pipes.
I don't know.
You're getting fucking punny, Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
Where's his booze, gentlemen? Fuck you. Fuck you both. Right. Splice. Initially, the peeps, they qualified through the North American closed qualifier. But Splice came in. They were looking for a third, and Karma has now replaced one. Is now the new third. And Splice actually picked this team up to go towards LAN. So
just helping Jay out here. I'm just letting him know that it was Arsenal.
I'm not familiar with the North American teams, okay, but yeah. Karma in for Arsenal, Splice supporting this team in official capacity. What do we see out of this team? Because the key thing that stuck out to me about Splice in the last relegations was the fact that my God, Karma was the only good player for them at that time. I mean, look,
the other two lost their head. They're fantastic
yeah.
players, but again, it's that whole crunch time thing, and Karma was the only one to keep her head about her. She is an RLCS player through and through. Picking up the peeps, this should hopefully be a good thing, whether she can lead this team to even better stuff, as they've just been promoted in that. But this is, I would argue, a risky move, but it's one that's quite cool that we're seeing. Does this work in a proper tense environment? Peeps, of course, earned their spot through the open qualifiers. Splice going down to the RLRS like, no, we want to stay in RLCS. And then quickly, they were the first team to swoop in and try and pick up one of these new RLCS teams. So they've gone for the Peeps. The Peeps are a fantastic team. They've been really damaging, even against the top 3 in North America at times. 4 with Space Station Gaming on a good day, of course. And this just seems like, is this going to be a good one? Splice, I really want them to stick around in Rocket League because they're a fantastic org to the scene. They've got full trust in Karma, and I'd imagine it was Karma's decision to pick up this roster. And yeah, she's a smart girl. She should know that this is a team that could work and make a deep run and maybe even get to Worlds next season. But this is the proper proof in the pudding right now at Valencia. And I could see them maybe having a try at Montreal together as well to give it a second run,
Well, what's the potential that Splice decides to move Karma into this new three-person roster, essentially?
Well, she's replacing the Arsenal. That's pretty much confirmed. Arsenal's on the out and is looking at other teams at the moment. We shan't say who, of course. But does it work? Because Arsenal by far was the best player on that team. It's a little bit harsh, but I just love Arsenal's playstyle. So it's a weird one. It's near enough the whole case, it looks like, of new captain comes in and has to pick up that role, which is, she's always been the third man back and near enough picking up third on the rotation, being that cleanup role. It's going to be hard, and I reckon actually on that team, all eyes are going to be on her to fully perform, and she's got the weight of the world on her shoulders.
Well, as was proven in the relegations, she can carry that weight pretty easy sometimes. And honestly, she's such a fun player to watch when she's doing good. Yeah. So I can imagine her being able to do some good stuff this weekend. I think the bigger question for me is all about what will that be like with Explosive Driver and Rattles in for Jay Wiz and Nose Dude more than anything else. So we'll take a look at that team composition in our wrap-up show. Hopefully, if we get to see more of Splice on the main streams, or the B stream, in fact.
Yeah.
So
at the moment, it's too much uncertainty to sort of make proper predictions on that. Yeah. Explosive Driver is absolutely awesome. So is Rattles, but it does come down to this is their proper first competition showing. They would have scrimmed together beforehand, but of course we unfortunately don't get amazing amount of info on that because it's just basically whenever the players actually want to divulge that in Discord, which ain't it most of the time.
Yeah, and of course, as we all know, you can't take any of the scrim results seriously, so...
Yeah, you got to take them with a pinch of salt, so it's always a case of...
So, yeah. Anyways, let's move on to some big hitters.
Not so subtle with that one.
Let's move on to some big hitters. Rogue and G2. Two teams that I really wanted to talk about because they had a massive run at the World Championships. Rogue obviously making it to their semi-finals, G2 going so far as to the grand final before losing against Renault Vitality. So taking a look at these two teams and what they've had what they've had for breakfast over the last couple of months, like for Rogue especially,
so you're saying like RLCS getting to the finals was just breakfast, and this is the main course then?
Yeah, this will be the main course. It's Dreamhack, right? It's always the main course. But again, for Rogue especially, they're a team that had a massive underdog run to get here. They have been on the upward trend ever since the middle part of the season. They were 2 games away from even being in the relegation zone for the RLCS, and then obviously they made that lower bracket run. They made it to Worlds. They made it to the semis, and they had just such a just such a good sort of time essentially over there. And for them individually, I wanted to talk about what their potential is to carry that momentum forward into this LAN.
I would love them to carry their momentum forward. Like I said, I didn't actually expect them to make it through to semis at Worlds, and so they broke all expectations there. For me here, I want them to make it into day 3. Whether they get there is near enough going to be based on the bracket, on Saturday, of course, but I see it within the realm of possibility. Rogue is on the up. These lads are actually pretty darn good at LAN. They've got their heads about themselves. Kronovi is a massive factor to that, and like we said before, Kronovi actually getting booted off G2 onto this roster probably saved his career, because if he had been on G2 for another season, he might have got quite complacent, that sort of deal. So it's the rebirth of Kronovi, which is fantastic, because I love the old OGs, of course. And so him on Rogue, I just want to see this team do a lot better, and I think they can. He's given a lot of insight, and just AJ and Wonder have got their heads about them. Just let them do their thing, and I think that thing is going to be making it through to day 3, top 8.
Yeah, could well do so. I mean, again, Rogue are a really respectable squad after the World Championship, and I think that they could do some seriously good stuff. They aren't the top seed in their group, but I don't really think they need to. I mean, they might have some trouble against Dignitas, but I think that's the only real thing standing in their way in terms of that upper bracket.
They'll probably drop to Dig and then have to face off against Chiefs or, I'd imagine, Savet, which I'd imagine both of us are just going to look at that and go, yeah, that's a win.
Probably, yeah. I mean, certainly could be most likely a possibility here for the Rogue side. But moving on to G2 as well, another team that obviously we have to talk about them. Second place at the World Championship, one of the 3 NA teams that made it to top 4 in the Worlds. And they are the second seed of this whole tournament. In Group C at the top, they've got to beat High Five, Ghost, and or Method. And I mean, to be honest, I probably could see them doing that right there. They have been looking extremely good these last few months. No, you're shaking your head.
By patterns, G2 do absolutely fantastic. Let's take, E-League back in the day. And after that, they just plummet into nothingness. They have got, if history repeats itself, G2 would be out on day 1.
Wow.
I don't want that.
Wow.
I'm just saying that is by history. G2 should have the easiest half of Group C to run through. They should be able to take down High Five easily. Ghost Gaming, they've proven they can take them down, of course, over in America. And Method, with Tigre coming back, this should be the best propellant into day 2, and we'll see what happens there, of course. But by history, I could see them dropping in that upper finals. And then,
but you do establish that this group is a cakewalk, right?
No, I'm establishing C is hard on that top end, because you look at the bottom end of C, you've got Bricks, Aeriality, and Barca there. I'm just saying, G2 will drop, I'm thinking here, let's say to Method, because Method suddenly have the momentous run, and then they have to go up against either Bricks or Aeriality, whoever drops from that one. You can see why I think G2 could drop out on day 1 there, right? I
mean, I'd say the Method result was a bit of a stretch. Fucking hell, man. Are you sure G2 could lose to Method? We've already talked about the Rick's Run Day Burrito.
Well, they could lose to Ghost. I'm just saying that by history, G2 come to the next event and they just play poorly. So it'd be like a 3-2 loss, and everyone's just going, oh, don't worry, G2 will make it in a lower bracket, and then suddenly Bricks lost to Ariads, and Bricks come through and just slap them about in a 3-0. That is just by tradition, it seems now, what happens to G2.
I mean, certainly based off the World Championship results, I'm not certain that's certainly going to be a thing.
I'm saying it's history. It shouldn't happen.
I'm not denying that either.
But it's happened way too often.
I'm not denying that either. No, you're 100% right about that. I feel like there's potential for G2 to go out in this one, but based on the fact that they were the second place team at Worlds,
Day 1 will be the teller, and I hope they break that trend. Yes, because if they do break that trend, they're making it easy for that top half. They should do anyway.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I think for a lot of the teams, it's always about, I see how they do on the day, I see how they do in day 1, because obviously any match could be repeated twice in 2 different days, and it probably would end up being very, very different story. So, yeah, Rogue and G2, 2 teams to watch out. If you had to pick one to go above the other, are you still against G2 in that regard, or is it all aboard the G2 train?
I'm going to be clouded by the want of Rogue here. We'll allow that. Jam's got a little hint to later with the lottery. Jam behind us is just there going, he's got G2 that he's rooting for this weekend. And so he's trying to sway me, but no. My heart is with Rogue.
You're going to go Rogue to place above G2. All right, okay. Okay then, fair enough, Bacon.
We do this.
Fair enough. All right, let's see how well that goes for you as we round out our cross-regional storylines with those two teams, and we can move into the big brunt of things, which is the EU RLCS. This is an EU podcast, so of course
They all there.
we're all going to talk about all of the teams because yes, they are all there. We had some concerns with Triple Trouble saying, and Tadpole especially hinting at Triple Trouble not being in Valencia, but here we stand, and every single RLCS team, as of right now, after the promotions, is going to be here at the LAN event. You're looking a bit confused. Yeah, woo. You're looking a bit confused.
I'm just
Bacon.
trying to like stack. Yeah,
No,
up in my head.
I verified this. I verified this. This is 100%
Yeah.
the case.
No, that's it. I was double checking my head. Okay, we're fine. So let's just crack on with those EU teams, of course. Who do you want to talk about first?
Let's start Dignitas.
Oh boy, that's a big one.
This is a big storyline that has been happening ever since they had their historical era, essentially, in Rocket League history.
The clusterfuck, yes.
Yeah, and ever since that point, it has been a bit of an up and down trend for Dignitas. But obviously, as we mentioned earlier, Turbo Pulsar's now out. Astral is in. Unofficially in, but let's be real here.
It's a tryout. Again, like I was saying with Spice, it's a risky move, but it's a good one. Like,
yeah, I know.
If you want to put,
it's
trial by fire.
My thing is that if you've been watching social media and we're looking at the Dignitas Twitter, you'll know that they keep teasing, "Ooh, who's going to be our third? Who's going to be our third man of Valencia?" It's Astral, right? It's fucking Astral. Everyone knows. Everyone knows it's Astral. It's on Wikipedia.
For the last month, everyone has known.
We as industry insiders fucking know this. The people who aren't even industry insiders fucking know this. Sorry to point out the guys at the couch, but everyone knows. Everyone knows this. Yeah, boo you two. Everyone knows it's Astral, right? Everyone knows it's Astral, and we got to talk about this team in that context and in that light. Astral has been a very, very good player, a really good player. He's been incredible on the aeriality side. He's been incredible for Method, even though he couldn't fix the problems with that particular squad. And here on Dignitas, this is a massive, massive call up for him. And I got to ask you, Bacon, from your personal perspective, from your expert opinion, do you think that this team and Astral could fit well together?
I think they could fit so well together that they actually win Valencia. It's that level. You look at Astral, he's coming into a team that is not broken in those two. Yuka and Panda have been working absolutely fine together. The problem was Turbo. Everyone saw that. Going into this, he's just got to play fast, play his own style, and the other two will try and adapt to him. Panda's a smart guy, so is Yuka, and Yuka is pretty much an all-rounder, so he's not one that generally other people have to adapt to anyway. Thus, it's quite easy for Astral to come in, and Panda's going to be the one adapting. If anyone on that team is going to be under scrutiny this weekend, it is going to be Panda, because Panda's the one that's got to accommodate Astral and his wicked fast play style. He's one of the strongest mechanical players in the whole EU at the moment. And like I said, if it goes if it goes as I can see it happening, we could suddenly have and I'm hoping it's not a flash in the pan, of course, but we could see Dig come back on top, and everyone just yeah, Turbo was the problem. Straight through and through, it's proven.
Well, I mean, you also got to consider that Dignitas were the winners of the first Dreamhack Pro Circuit event, which was Leipzig. I mean, they had a decent run at Dallas as well, in spite of the issues of Turbo Pulsar. So
everyone else at Leipzig was very hit and miss, though. We've got to look at that.
True.
Dig played really well, don't get me wrong. That was the honeymoon period with Yukio. Barca really should have come out on top of that weekend, but they just lost in Game 7 to Dig there, and then went on to play Vitality in the finals, of course, Dig. And Vitality were, again, very hit and miss, but this was, again, their first tournament together with K-Dot, and that was the moment which convinced me that I remember saying afterwards, Vitality are winning worlds. What did Vitality do?
True that. That is entirely true. But Dignitas, obviously, change was on the horizon for them. I think we kind of all expected it. I don't think we expected it to be Turbo specifically, just because that's so sacrilegious. Essentially, the idea that Turbo would not be on Dignitas.
I said the entire fucking way along that it should have been Turbo. Shut up.
Okay, right. You're the exception to the rule. I think the majority
I'm the one
of
that's
us,
always right.
Fuck you, right? I think the majority of us believe that it would not be Turbo. In our heart of hearts, we not believe that. But change was on the horizon for Dig. They didn't make Worlds. They barely, I think, stayed alive in the RLCS as a whole, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
So it's not been the best of downtrends for the likes of Dignitas. And I want to talk about their placing in the grand scale of Rocket League as a result, because let's assume this Astral move is permanent, just for the sake of argument's sake. What do we think they could do going into the next LAN and into the next season and into the next year, essentially, with Yukio, Violent Panda, and Astral.
So, again, this is a trial by fire for Astral. If it don't work out, I'd imagine they'll probably pop to the next team because, again, Dignitas, we've got a whole load of good up-and-coming players. And we know those two... Yukio, of course, came into the Bricks, the old F3 roster, as the up-and-coming player, jumping straight through from RL or RS. Violent Panda finds great players as it is. So if this doesn't work with Astral, they'll probably play with him a little bit online afterwards. If they don't see it working, they'll jump to the next player. But I seriously see, this is the build-up of Astral. He has just been absolutely fantastic. Again, you look to Dallas with that method roster, by far the standout player, get them through to day 2. And... he should just fit in here like a glove.
All right, I think you've got high hopes for Astral right now. I mean, I'm a little bit skeptical more than anything else because, again, he's been amazing, but this is like a completely different level that he's got to be amazing at. So I think...
He was amazing at Dallas. It's the same level.
He wasn't at... Was he at Dallas? Oh, he was at
Yes.
Dallas, wasn't he? He was with Method, of
With
course.
Method.
Fucking idiot. No, but, again,
Jesus
but he's... Right, listen, Bacon, right? You need to stop being a little bitch. So... all right, Frank. Let's move on. Right. I'm still skeptical. We'll see.
Right.
We'll see how things go with that one.
You're wrong, though.
All right, whatever. TSM, the next thing we want to talk about. They actually, on the contrary, have not made any roster moves whatsoever here, Bacon. What?
They're so up and down, TSM, aren't
Yeah,
they? Essentially,
I was going to say, they have not made any roster moves, and despite that, they have still been up and down and up and down. They haven't been able to replicate the consistency of Complexity back in the day and Dignitas back in the day when the big thing that everyone was doing was making roster moves, and the people who weren't making roster moves were the ones that were succeeding. So... Is that going to repeat and reapply to TSM, or is the issue running a little bit more deeper than that?
by the up and down, this should be a good land for TSM. Because actually, no, it should be a crap one considering that they did quite well at Dallas, getting through to finals, of course. I don't know. TSM, I have no clue actually going into this one.
I mean,
and that's what scares me for a team. If I can look at them, and yeah, from that inconsistency, I have no idea what's going to happen to them. That just means they've got to find consistency, essentially.
Pretty much. I mean, like they are such a difficult team to weigh up because obviously they are so inconsistent, basically. You know, like they're just talking about TSM and the way that they've been at the high of highs of winning E-League, and then they've been at the lowest lows of going out in last place at the regional playoffs. And for this event, they will be in Group A, taking on Notorious Legion in their first match, and either Mount Gang or Complexity in the upper bracket finals if they make it there. Do we see upset potential for them in that particular group?
Not in that group. They should be fine.
But I think, okay, fine. But moving on was in the rest of the tournament, though.
Yeah, they might struggle to get through to day 3, essentially, is what I'm looking at. It's got to be great day at the office. Like, we know the level of Rocket League now. Any team that can make it through to the top 8 of this tournament is going to be a brilliant team. But TSM, it will come down to, day 1 should be fairly easy. Like we said, you could get the upset come through from most likely Mount Gang in that group, maybe Ground Zero. If they can finally do it, they did have the form at RLCS. Maybe this is their comeback, essentially, or maybe even Splice. Because you got to remember, the team that drops from that Splice Ground Zero game will be onto the side that TSM will be on if they lose to Complexity, like I reckon they will in the finals of the upper bracket Group A. So
you're actually calling it that TSM will lose to Complexity?
I reckon they will.
Okay, all right.
You've seen Complexity recently, yeah.
I agree. I mean, I still think it's kind of surprising because, again, they are just newly promoted. I think we're going to talk about them in a moment, though, because so we'll save that conversation for a little bit. But, I can see the possibility for TSM not having a great LAN here. Again, it's worrying when we can't really make an accurate prediction, when we can't say for certain, this is going to be a good LAN for TSM, when we can't say for certain they've got a lot of potential behind them because of just that inconsistency basis. So, for them, again, it's such a hard sort of result to weigh up, and I sort of see where you're coming from with the fact that you
day
think
two
it might
easy, but do they make it day 3? And
I think it will be a bit of a tough one. I think Bacon more than anything else, but we'll see how well they do. I think day 1 is going to be a relatively decent cakewalk. Again, the main issue should be complexity, but other than that, I think they'll be all right. So let's move on to talking about that complexity side, actually, since we have the opportunity available to us. They're fresh off promotion. They're doing amazing. This is a team that has been catapulted back into relevancy off the basis of one good roster move, and that roster move being Flakes.
the surprise roster move, which they didn't even know was going to go down until, who knows, what was it, 5 hours or something before sign-ups closed? Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. Oh man, it's been such a good time for Complexity as of late. In the last event they went to the quarterfinals against Cloud9, which is where they actually ended up dropping. But before that point, they took out Round of Vitality, which is obviously that moment we were like, okay, this is a team that actually might. And I remember at the time we were talking about this.
Cloud9 won Dallas. That's why we're looking here, and you can see I'm accepting that Complexity lost there, but Complexity have been growing and growing.
Well,
they
actually,
look like next season of RLCS, they could be a scary top 4 run. They could make LAN. And I think we're going to see the proper signs here at Valencia for that.
Well, actually, I wanted to retroactively apply some new logic to the old Dallas result. Because I remember back when we were talking about the Complexity versus Reno Vitality result, we were saying, is this a case of Complexity being good or Reno Vitality being bad? And in the end, we were talking about the World Championships. When we looked at Reno Vitality, we kind of went down the notion of it was Reno Vitality not looking great on LAN. Now that we've seen what Reno Vitality can do at the World Championships, and now we've seen that Complexity are all right, I think I want to retroactively reapply that logic back to Complexity and have this go a point in their favor. I think Bacon here, because this roster has a lot of potential, so much potential.
It does,
and I could see them having
really on that
deep run.
The second day of Dallas as well. They went up in the first game against PSG and 3-0'd PSG, and then got 3-0'd by Barca. Barca at that point still had not lost a single game that entire weekend. They were hot shit until playoffs and had to go up against some evil geniuses or something like that. I don't know. But going into the losers bracket there, 3-0 in Vitality. Vitality were playing poor that weekend. They just got through into day 2 by, I would argue, the skin of their teeth, much respect, but that's just because they're of that level. Going here, though, Complexity, they just had Cloud9, and Cloud9 were like any other team at Dallas. Coming into this, as long as they don't get a team that's absolutely on fire, they should be able to make a very deep run. Day 3, I would not be surprised at all. That's where they should end.
I can agree with you on that one. But you mentioned the team, so their mid-X upset could be potentially a big thing. I think they should be able to make quick work of Mount Gang, and then going into day 2 with the top seeding probably could work out well to them if they're facing off against some of the lower teams. And from these brackets, some of the lower teams could actually end up being a very, very good setup and a very good draw for the likes of Complexity. So, yeah, there's a lot of love going around the Cole camp right now. There's a lot of excitement around these guys. Again, I'm so impressed with how well they've been doing as of late. I'm so happy they got promoted, and going into this LAN, this is their chance to prove what they can do, not only against the RLCS teams, but against the rest of the world as well. And for a team that's been freshly promoted, you barely ever get the opportunity,
Yeah, and again, it's that case of we know what they can do. They just got to keep that form. This is them showing people consistency, which not only is good for them on their mentality, but it's also good for the org. It's great for Complexity to see that their team can keep making top 8, because Complexity are backing these guys. We saw them, of course, when a lot got transferred on over the mouse, and Complexity are there like, okay, we'll keep with this roster for now, but the lads are going to have to sort this out. And we were all a little bit, of course, worried because of that 5 minutes until the end, they hadn't found someone answer, essentially, and just went with Flakes because, whatever reason, I don't know, Magnus had. And it seems like this was a beautiful mistake, essentially, but it's one that we're hoping is going to keep evolving.
Well, let's see how far it evolves at this LAN. I've got a lot of hopes of Complexity. We're expecting a day 3 finish for them, potentially going a bit further than that.
I'm hoping
I want
semis.
to ask for your potential underdog style of victory. Essentially, do you think that they could potentially go to the finals and make the championship?
I don't think they're going to do finals, unfortunately. Like I said, I reckon it'll be either last day quarters, the first match of last day. They could make semis though.
All right, well, let's see how far they do go. Semi-finals potentially on the cards for Complexity. A team that I don't think are going to make the semi-finals, though, unfortunately, are PSG. Now, I will start this off by saying we have heard some rumours that there's potentially a roster move brewing around the PSG camp at the moment here, Bacon.
They're sick and tired of essentially doing bad on LAN. This, to me, is looking at the wrong area. Like we said, it's a coaching issue. It's a mentality issue. It's not down to the players, but we've got no say on that. The players do, because, well, we know if Rocket League, the orgs generally don't get involved. They just throw money at them. But the players are the ones that decide it, and players are dumb, Jay.
Yeah, your famous quote, isn't it? Yeah. Players are fucking dumb. But We'll talk about that move when it comes down to actually being a thing. For now, let's talk about PSG at this LAN, because again they're in a situation where there's potentially a chance where they could actually go out in the first day. Unfortunately, they've got a pretty stacked group. They've got triple trouble to meet on the way there, and then in the lower bracket they've got potentially the likes of Valencia and Renegades also to contend with, and it's just like, oh shit. That's just like, when we've seen PSG and we've seen what they can do on LAN events, and, they struggled throughout the entire course of the World Championship. They still made it to the final day, but it was just like watching them and how much they didn't do during the course of that group stage and how much they could do at this group stage. It's like, I can see a world where PSG go out in day one here, Bacon.
I would completely agree with that. And what scares me is, like, this is the last chance for one of the players on PSG to essentially keep their job, which is very harsh to say. So I reckon this is going to be so much stress on the team and they will just completely flop. Who knows? That stress could also propel them to finally do brilliant at LAN, but we don't see it happening. I could see them dropping triple trouble and then having to go up probably against, it'd be either Valencia and Renegades, we expect. And that ain't so favourable. Like we said, Renegades, you'd hope, for them anyway, that's the better matchup because of Valencia, we've seen them take down PSG before. But it's not a comfortable situation for PSG at the moment, especially.
No, definitely not. For PSG as a whole, I think they've got a lot of doubts coming into this one, especially if they've been talking about these roster moves, especially if this is a thing that's going to be a reality. It's just like, holy fuck, in order to avoid that reality, PSG have to pull off some fucking miracle. That's what they got to do. They've got to pull some ridiculous shit out of their ass. Some golden turds essentially to be shot out by this particular squad, and I'm just not sure it's going to happen, Bacon. I really again. I hate to be this down about PSG because we've said it for ages. I love the guys over there. I see the potential in this team. I see the talent that they've got. They're the one squad which I look at and it's like I cannot fix it by making a roster swap. I cannot make an appropriate change that will make this team better by losing someone like a Chaussette or a Ferrer or a Fruity. And I'm not even going to entertain that conversation here on the podcast because I don't even think it's one that we can have here, Bacon.
Well, it'd be there who would you swap? Again, we're just both there. We've got 30 minutes of silence and it just ends with, and that was the RLAfterShock. See you next week. No, because we honestly don't know who would fit in there. It's such a weird team, weird situation. All we know is that they need a bloody coach or something in that because that is the logical answer to it.
Absolutely. And obviously we've talked about that in great depth, so you can go back and listen to that podcast if you want to. If there was a chance they get to day 2, do we see an opportunity to go to day...
Nope.
Absolutely.
No day 3 for PSG.
Day 3 would be the other performance.
Dreamhack is too stacked. RLCS they can make day 3 because of the way the group stages worked. Dreamhack, nah.
Yeah.
Ain't gonna happen.
Unlucky times for PSG, unfortunately. So let's move on to the Bricks, who have a lot of potential. Bacon?
I hate you so bloody much. No.
If you're checking out our Twitter, by the way, at RLAfterShock on Twitter, then you'll know exactly what the inside joke there to that one is. But yeah, the Bricks, we talked about their roster moves earlier. We talked about specifically last week about the mouse support sort of dissolution, essentially.
Well, the Bricks are an interesting one because we know they're playing with a lot here at LAN, but we know that after LAN, they're going to be trying out Turbo. This is a team which is just they've got a field run essentially because they're probably going to be trying to get to Montreal as well through the open qualifiers. If they don't, I doubt they'll actually go along because they weren't at Dallas, of course. They're not going to pay their way out to America because they would have to pay it all themselves. They don't have an org. But this is a team that, because they've got that RLCS spot, they've got a lot of sort of room to play with because, again, the Bricks are a roster that have been in Rocket League the entirety of the RLCS history, on the flip side, however. But going forward, who do they pick up? They've got Speed, who we were a little bit scared of and thought he would be the ladder on the out because he was the wonder sub, basically rotating between everyone and doing great stuff. He's going to stay. It seems Mystic's the one on the out, which is understandable because he was the weakest player on the roster, but he also served as like a captain role. So...
I mean, that's what I wanted to talk about.
That's
actually,
why they're picking up a lot, it seems,
Yeah.
because a lot is a captain. But a lot is not the right pick for this team.
I mean, for me, it makes sense because obviously a lot was a captain of a really historic sort of lineup in the form of complexity
Pick
or
up
method.
Lacto then. If you want a captain that's going to do better, not a lot who just is only good down on the attack, pick Lacto who can put on defense, and then you just leave Speed and Cooksir to go on the attack more. Cooksir has been in defense way too long. He's just been stuck as a goalie. I want to see more craziness from him, which we haven't seen since probably, like, I don't know, season 3, it would feel like.
I mean, in terms of technical role, yeah, I do agree that probably a lot's not the best fit. But we have seen him...
Uncage Cooksir, please. The quiet little Spaniard has been locked up for too long.
Release the Cooksir is what Bacon's saying. But no, in terms of, like, you know, being a leader himself, I think has a lot to excuse the pun, has a lot to bring to the table. You know, like he's it was not intentional, Crafters. All right, shut the fuck up. So the thing is that a lot as well himself has been a very adaptable player and everything. You know, we saw how he took the captain role. He was almost exclusively a captain for complexity, and
which was method beforehand. Yes,
that's why I got it mixed
done.
up. Okay, but then he went over to Mouse Sports and he became a lot less captain based and was a little bit more a bit more of a striker. You know,
it was still sort of like, if you take CS:GO logic, the in-game leader. Essentially, he was largely calling his shots in-game, but you saw his. We've already seen it, the curse of a lot, it feels like. Going from the roster that was Diamond Complexity goes to Mouse, that dies.
That dies.
And now the bricks are going to die. No.
Poor Danny, man. He's going to be having a heart attack throughout the course of this entire life.
Can someone go check up on him.
Danny, can you call us like after every day and make sure that you're not going to actually, you know, pass out or pass away in the middle of the bricks fucking match
or something like that. Jeez.
But yeah, I mean, look, I've got a bit more stock in a lot than I think you do. I mean, if they
he needs to get
bed,
results to be worth anything at the moment. He ain't getting them.
If they
for the
shit
last
the bed,
year.
if they shit the bed, then I will absolutely be on board your hype train right now. For their run, they have got a bit of a difficult affair in Aeriality and FCB to contend with on their upper bracket run. But I still think the Bricks should be able to make it into day 2 at the very least, right? Wow,
yes, I think they should, because of course they're going up against Aeriality in that first match. I've said it already, I reckon Aeriality might just pop through. That then means that the Bricks will be on the opposite side of the bracket, most likely, I do believe, facing up against, it'll be the... probably High Five and who's below them? Helios. They should go through there. I reckon that's how it works out. Don't quote me on that, of course. And then they'd have to go up against the loser of G2 and Ghost and Method, which again I see them probably popping through on that, unless, like we're saying, G2 probably drops down there and do all that whole drama, whatever. They should go through. But they should, and we've seen that been said so many times before, and it's not happened. And I'm scared for that. I don't want this team to die. They're not going to die because they've got the RLCS spot, but it's a team that's waning, essentially. You know, it's that one that is slowly but surely making its way to the curb in preparation.
Wow. Jesus, Bacon. You're really...
Unless we get a massive change-up, and a lot is not that change, is what I'm saying.
All right, well, who do you think is a change? A good change.
I like the idea, like I said, of Turbo coming through and they'll be trying out. But as I said, Hylacto's probably your best bet there. Or they just go full balls to the wall speed and pick up someone like Ixo. Again, though, Aeriality lads. Or if bloody Ashel doesn't fit on with the lads at Dignitas, maybe give him a tryout for that exact same reason.
But then wouldn't that also feed into the fact that a lot's a striker as a whole, you know?
Yeah, but he's not a good striker. That's the problem.
Fucking hell, you are really pumped
I don't like a lot. He has not done anything praiseworthy in the last year.
Okay, I can't argue with that much at the very least.
Remember, I changed around on Greasy because he's actually finally doing stuff now. Before he moved to Complexity, and like for the first time when a lot was on Complexity, I never rated him. Now moving up, actually Greasy's pretty good. I'll allow it. Again, still bottom half RLCS, but that's still impressive in the grand scheme of things.
All right. Well, I mean, to be fair, you have delivered some pretty like comprehensive arguments. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you know, I wasn't expecting you to be this savage. Like, usually I'm the savage one, but you're just straight up don't give a fuck. Do you know what it is? It's the Dallas thing. Obviously, I'm right in the high of that whole situation, and like you're just kind of jealous of the fact that I'm going to the States next week.
He has to work this into every single conversation.
Not every conversation, right? Fuck you. Yeah. Right, let's move on. Triple Trouble, Bacon, Mr. Bacon, Triple Trouble are back, and I am very hyped about this one because we saw on social media for the past couple of months various direct or indirect tweets stating and suggesting that Triple Trouble will not be here at Valencia, despite them being a top 8 team in the world. Like, that should have...
Yeah. Who would have thought that not actually having an org, not actually having a salary means you can't pay to go to an event?
Well,
mystifies me.
Well, we were suggesting the idea of sponsoring them to get to the... I mean, obviously non-serious.
That come out of your pocket.
Yeah, that come out of my pocket, not yours. But yeah, Triple Trouble are here and they are hungry. Obviously, you must expect them to be
coming
hungry.
Coming off of Worlds,
where they went to the quarterfinals and they did well. When you saw how the emotion sort of played in, and you saw on the broadcast how the family was all there, base was there, and there was a lot of support in terms of the New Jersey crowd. And here we are in Valencia, and we're definitely going to be supporting them. I can tell you that right now.
Oh yeah.
And this is a team that's been so hungry for so long, and you can tell they've been hungry as well because of the way that they've handled themselves in terms of the World Championship, the way that they were constantly down about not being able to go to Valencia, and they're obviously here right now. So there's a good chance that I could see them having the mentality game to push forward and make a deep run here. Bacon, what says you?
Yeah, Triple Trouble, they are the EU boys. Everyone in the community is going to be backing them. Leipzig, when they brought in Casio, literally spur of the moment because they had to because Speed moving on over to the Bricks, the old F3 roster then afterwards. Because it was after WSOE and he stuck with them. Here, Casio is now very well settled in, so I could see them making through to day 3 as well. They're a pretty safe bet for me, actually, out of all things. And again, they're at a land where everyone, and I mean everyone in that arena, is going to be backing them, shouting out their names, all of that. This has got to be them near enough on top form, and I expect no less, essentially, because they've proven itself.
Yeah, I can see a good tournament essentially for Triple Trouble. They have a pretty decent group. I can see them going through as a top seed team out of the teams in their in their group stage.
Yep.
And I think a day 2.
Day 2 will be the telling one really, because again that's when you cut it down to 16 teams. But we'll see what happens there, because again, it all just comes down to, because we don't know how they stack up, of course. So we'll just have to see. Actually, no, we have been just kind of seeing now. If they come out on top, they go to Group A in day 2. If they drop down, they will be going to Group B, I do believe, if they drop from that placement anyway. So it'll be an interesting one to see anyway, how they stack up.
Yeah, Triple Trouble certainly a team that everyone wants to see succeed. The community have backed them. I don't think we can say much more than that. I think the best thing we can do right now from Aftershock is just say good luck, boys. I really want to
do us proud.
Do us proud. Especially Tadpole. The man from the UK. I love him, love it in a bit. So. Right, let's move on to the big hitters now, because there are a couple more teams we want to talk about here, Bacon. FC Barcelona. FC Barcelona is one of those guys. Disappointing World Championship, I think, for them.
I brought it up at Wells.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, you did say that they do have shit day 3s. So even taking a look at their seeding and the way that they're gonna and the way that the first day is gonna go, like it should be an easy day 2 for them for Group A. I don't think they can beat Reality.
In Group A, it's never easy. Right, Dreamhack, we've said it is never easy.
No, it's not
but
easy.
They're a team
we
expect definitely to make day 3 out of all their previous results. Dallas, they didn't lose a single game to day 3, and then of course day 3 hit and it hits hard.
Yeah, they shit the bed against the EG, and now they're going to have probably a similar sort of situation ahead of them, I believe, when going into Valencia, and it's just like, well, where do we see these guys? What do we see these guys doing to try and change that? Because day 2 is pretty much a guarantee. They beat Helios, and then they've got to beat the Bricks or Air Reality.
I look at Barca, they either win it all, or they lose straight away in day 3. It is the continuation of the curse. That is it. Because Barca, again, is arguably one of the top. They're a top 4 team at the moment in the world. Vitality, of course, are coming off the back of World, so that's quite nice for them. You look at Cloud9, they're massively high form and should not be underestimated. I reckon NRG, like I said, is probably going to have a very last chance for Fireburner, or it could come out the opposite, who knows, but I reckon it will be a very missed one. But like I said, Dignitas is now the one to actually be feared from. And where do Dignitas go? Do they go into, we're just quickly checking this now.
B.
They're going to Group B?
Yeah, hold on, right there.
Yeah. Well, they should go into Group B anyway. Don't know about if they drop down, but
this could all change at any point depending on the the specific.
Go down to the lower brackets.
If there's an upset result, then that could change the whole complexion of their placing in the tournament.
But yeah, we could see the perfect run from Barcelona not dropping a single series, I reckon.
Yeah, it could well be for FCB. I mean, they certainly did it in Dallas, not dropping a single game, let alone a single series. Mm-hmm. So, it'll be tough again. But I got to ask you, what do you think the chances of that happening really are for them? Because, again, as you said, day 3 choke, it's a real thing for this team, and we've had a lot of praise for them. They've struggled, especially against the international talent, because we saw the likes of Cloud9 clap them at the World Championships. We've seen them fall lots of North American sides in general, because the play styles sort of like they fit each other pretty well. They clash in very effective sort of fashion, Bacon.
Yeah, so day 3 is pretty much, I would argue, a 99% chance they're just that team. Last day, I would give it, again, patterns go against it for this, but I'd give them like a 33% to 40% chance or something like that of them winning it all. Again, that other 60% is them losing straight out there and then. They ain't going to make semis again like they did with Leipzig. From all the pain that they've been through, it is do or die for Barca. They don't live any other way.
All right, well, let's see how well they'll do.
They're in the land of Bim Bam. It should power them on.
Yeah, well, we'll see how well the land of Bim Bam will support them.
It's their home country, technically.
Yep, and we've got one more team to talk about.
Oh, dear. What team's that?
You sure you know the team, Bacon?
I'm pretty sure we covered them all.
It's a small team, You may or may not have heard of them.
An petit team.
Yeah, an petit team. Is that French or Spanish? I can't remember.
That's French.
It's French. Yeah, we're in the wrong country.
You're just uncultured, aren't you?
Yeah, of course I am, mate. Well, actually, no, I'm not that uncultured. I watch anime. It's fine.
God, get him help.
Anywho, Rich coming from you fucking weeb. Right, the little team I'm talking about is Renault Vitality.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, World Championship.
Just continue through this. So yeah, Vitality coming in and off Worlds. Are we going to get the Champions Curse come through, Jay?
That's the thing that you talked about most of the thing. I think that's the thing you're kind of talking about all week so far. Is like, is it Champions Curse? Is it going to hurt the Vitality?
It to be an actual thing. I don't know how. It breaks all logic, but
yeah, I mean, it kind of does. I mean, here's the thing about Champions Curse: is that it never actually went away. Okay, right. It never was. It was just overcome by one major team, and that was the Dignitas and Gale Force. Basically, they were the only team that actually managed to survive Champions Curse and take some major lands and take a back-to-back World Championship, and of course, in Turbo's case, take 3 overall.
In fairness, though, there weren't many lands because, like, between that period, the one land in between, I want to say 2 of their RLCSs, was the Universal Open. And yeah, are we going to count that?
No, we're not going to count that. If you count that, you're a
So Champions Curse for them was going RLCS to RLCS. So that's impressive that, that was the only one they could break. Or is Champions Curse only relevant to when it's a different LAN? Are we getting more details on this disease?
I mean, like, at the end of the day, right, I'm not sure whether it's a complacency thing in the case of Renault Vitality. I don't think the Champions Curse is going to be as massive an issue for them as it has been for the likes of Flipside in the past or Cloud9 prior to that.
Yep.
So I think that for Renault, because Renault Vitality's got a great infrastructure. Obviously, they're backed by Renault. They've got Greg in there, Mr. Waterboy himself.
Money out the wazoo, yeah.
They've got a great coaching system. They've got great infrastructure, and also they have been looking scary.
And they've got water this weekend, from what I've seen on Twitter. Yeah, should win it. There
exactly.
We go. Vitality. Sorry, Dig. Sorry, Barca. Step aside. Vitality taking it apparently.
All in the water, mate. All in the water. But yeah, Renault Vitality. I do admit I have got some fears about this squad. We saw them at the World Championship, and they did look pretty subpar in the first couple of days. In the third day...
Oh, that's just Vitality things, though. Like, they just... we'll make it the day through, who cares? We don't have to put in the effort for that. And again, that is a bit of a worry. And again, at Dallas, we saw them have a very subpar time. But coming through to day 3... That's when they really kick it off. So can they just meander their way to day 3? It's Dreamhack. I reckon it's going to be a lot harder than with RLCS. This is what we're saying. The caliber of Dreamhack is so much higher than RLCS these days that they've got to be on form the entire way. They can't, like I said, just meander their way through. They can't just waltz into day 3 and, like with RLCS, and then actually turn up. They've got to be there from the start.
Well, I don't think
this time they can't blame it on the water again.
Yeah, I don't think the complacency is going to be a major issue for Rhino Vitality. I think the issue is going to be about it is going to be about finding the consistency, because I think that they were making some big mistakes, not down to complacent, that looked like they were just not on form throughout the World Championships. Double commits and rotations looking god awful. They only really started to look good when Scrub Killer got his act together and hold the defense very, very effectively. But they've got to be doing that from at least day 2 onwards. Day 1, I admit that's probably going to be a bit of a cakewalk. Like that, Bremen is going to be a simple. Bremen. It says Bremen here. It says Bremen. It's Bremen? Right, Bremen, right. Bremen is going to be an easy affair. Then they've got Splice or Ground Zero after that. I don't see them dropping to either of those particular squads. I don't see the potential is there at all. So day 2 is when the focus has to kick up, but they've got to, I think, lock it in from day 1, because if they don't lock it in on day 2, I fear they won't be there for day 3. I fear that they might not be able to make it to day 3, because day 2 is where the real competition kicks up.
Pretty much, yeah, everything like that. I will say, yeah, if they're not locked in for day 1, they could drop to Splice. The Peeps roster, again, coming out, they've got a lot to prove where, again, it's a lot of pressure, but they've got that new org picking them up. And if they make it, you got to think, if Splice make it at day 3, then Splice is probably picking up Peeps. That's confirmed, because it's that level. If RV aren't careful, Splice probably could take them down if we see another Dallas level of performance coming out from them.
Well, I wanted to ask you what you think of them going for a Dallas level performance. We were seeing...
It's a 50-50 probably at this point.
It's probably a 50-50, yeah. I mean, I do think they're still the favourites to win the title, though. I don't think there's a whole lot of people that want to contest that whole argument. Just
maybe Cloud9
the thing about Rhino Vitality is that the fact that they are just such a good, scary squad when they step up to the plate. When they look good.
It's all the hair on Ferris.
I've heard he's going to cut it soon.
Yeah, it's after LAN, ain't it? Yeah. So we could have the comparison with Montreal for their abilities. So who knows on that one? But
the power is in the hair, and the fairy book's about to throw their hair away. I mean, you ask where I get my casting skills from, and there you go. You just shake your head. You've got nothing to say on that. But in terms of Vitality, winning the championship, this could be a really big era-defining moment for them, or at least an era-starting moment for them, because they've been very dominant over the course of the RLCS season. They won the RLCS World Championship. They can have this in the bag, and after that is Montreal. If they take 3 back-to-back championships, I'd establish this as the Rhino Vitality era.
Oh, God, can we not start up the whole era talk again? Because, again, we look at the period where Dignitas and, of course, Galeforce were winning it all. They were by far the best team in the world. We don't have that case at the moment, like we said. You've got Cloud9 definitely making a strong case, even with G2 now, actually, after Worlds. NRG are having a bit of a troublesome spot at the moment, yes, but on the EU side, we have got... Barca there as well. Arguably, TSM, if they're informed there, and I reckon we're going to get the resurgence of Dignitas here with Astral. So it's not the start of an era. This is just Rocket League is so fucking, stacked at the moment.
I beg to differ. Again, if they win the 3 championships, then yeah, I'll say it's an era. Right? I'd say this is an era. This is an era starting moment right here to potentially give Rhino Vitality the chance, because there's only so many LANs in a year. It's not like Counter-Strike where you can say where you have to win 5, 6, 7 different LAN championships over the case of 2 months to start an era. It's not quite like that, because that's how many LAN events we get in the course of a year. So yep. I want to say that Rhino Vitality have the chance to set themselves up the groundwork to establish an era in the course of Rocket League, because it will be a period of dominance for them. So they're working on something a bit bigger than themselves and a bit bigger than the Dreamhack Championship overall, Bacon. So let's see if they can do it. They are the favourites to take the championship. Are you putting your bets on them to make the championship? I certainly am.
I probably am not, because like I said with the other teams, I reckon this could be finally the showing up of Barca. Like I said, Dig are probably going to have a cracking time. I think RV, from their previous results, They could just meander once again, but making it to day 3 should be a solid form. Making it top 4 should be a solid bet, but winning, I don't know. No.
Well, we'll see whether they can win it, and we'll see whether all of the teams themselves can compose themselves and potentially take a victory away and take a championship, the most stacked championship that we've had so far this summer.
Yes.
As Dreamhack Valencia kicks off tomorrow at, I can't remember what fucking time it is, Bacon.
Midday CEST.
Midday CEST. 12 p.m. a.m. midday, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Work it out in your own fucking time zone. It's 11 a.m. at UK time in BST in the BST land. And of course, we're going to be there. We'll be live from Valencia, delivering all the coverage we can via the Twitter at RLAfterShock on Twitter. So make sure you get involved over there and on the Discord link as well. No. It's not live this time. It's not exclamation mark Discord. It's in the show notes and video descriptions of every single episode of the podcast where you can find
I did try to
the
get
link.
him to do it live, but no.
I don't trust the internet here, Bacon, right? That's as simple as that. Yeah. But yeah, you can go to the video description and show notes of every single episode of the podcast. You can find the links over to the Discord where you can join the Discord channel where we will be running a special fan-only prediction game. Dexter's taking the front of that one.
Before we throw it off, we actually have to say who everyone's going for.
The lottery, of course.
We've got a lottery going on. Sorry, lads.
I completely forgot this whole thing. This is sort of like a luck of the draw style of thing. Essentially, these are the teams we're going to be supporting throughout the course of the Valencia land. Now, for those of you who don't know,
we put a little bet on if the winning team comes out and someone's got it. Everyone just gives £1 to the winner.
Everyone buys
a single quid. Yeah.
Right,
Forget Falius is a uni student.
But yeah, essentially we went through a lottery. It's not quite a prediction game, but you know, it's sort of like bragging rights.
It's a bit of fun.
But essentially we put all the teams into a hat and everyone picked out of a hat. And each of us in our flat and plus a couple more that we decided to pick on behalf of. Sorry, Shadow,
so we
Sly,
got
and Tractor.
For £1 each.
Yeah, sorry, B Shadow, J, Sly, and Tractor Manager who weren't here and did not pick their results, but we picked them for you, and there's no way you're getting out of this one. You are officially represented here on the Aftershock Lottery. So let's go through some of the teams we'll be supporting. I, in my anti-EU fanboyness, am going to be supporting the River Rats and NRG. Like, fucking hell. Can't believe that. You've got complexity in FC Barcelona.
I'm happy with that.
I'm really happy. You yourself have a pretty decent lineup of teams that you're going to be able to support. Jam himself has also got 2 pretty incredible teams because he's got the 2 finalists from World Championship. He's got Cheater and Vitality. Yeah. Motherfucker cheated, I think.
Again, remember, random out of a hat and he got them 2? That's crazy. Out of 21 teams we put in the hat, remember?
Yeah, we put 21 of the big teams, of course, in this one. Crafter's got PSG and Splice. Big rips.
A big old meh.
She scored a goal.
Right, moving on.
Falius got Triple Trouble and Rogue again.
I like that. He's got Triple Trouble, which of course he's going to be able to big up with the other lads. So everyone's
has he got the Triple Trouble jersey? Do you have it, Falius? No, he doesn't have it. Oh,
terrible fan.
I might have to ask Base for a jersey if he's got any. I might have to bring over some euros. But yeah, Bori got the Chiefs and Renegades. We picked on his behalf.
He is now an Aussie.
He is now an Aussie. So I think that works. Oi, oi, oi. Angus, our good friend, has the Bricks and Method, which is...
He's a massive Cooksier fanboy, so it fits well for him, yeah.
Yeah, so we also picked on behalf of, again, B Shadow J, who got TSM and Dignitas.
That's a stacked pick as well.
I wouldn't say so, actually. Again, they're the 2 teams that we sort of thought of, there's the potential for Dignitas to do well, but obviously TSM are the team who are the one inconsistent element.
Dallas, yeah.
Yeah, Dignitas are the ones with the most potential, but I think TSM are going to kind of weigh his picks down in that front. And Sly got Cloud9 and Ghost. So he's also
Cloud9's a good pick.
Cloud9's good.
Solid pick.
Ghost not quite as much, and then Tractor got Ground Zero and Veloce. So he's got the severe underdogs right now. Severe underdogs. Poor Tractor.
The thing is, he's behind the scenes, so we probably won't even see him for the rest
He's doing
of the
observation on the mainstream. So if you see any camera angle fuck ups, you can blame him. At Tractor Manager on
The thing
Twitter.
is, you won't see any camera angle fuck
Oh
ups.
no,
He's
of course
just
you
that
won't.
good.
That's why I'm putting that out there, right? He is that good that I have absolutely zero
and if you
expectations.
do, it's actually Quent.
It's Quent. Of course, it's Quent.
Track this on break.
That is true. Yeah, it's Quent.
Oh yeah, it's Shy's fault. Everything. Yeah, we forget this.
Of course, mate. But yeah, those are our lottery picks. We'll announce the winners and we'll probably give the person a pound or something shit. I don't fucking know. Anyway, bottom line is that that is going to be it from us here at RLAfterShock. Again, if you do want to get involved in our prediction game, it's the Discord link in the show notes and video descriptions of every single episode of the podcast. And of course, if you're watching or listening via any of the regular platforms, then remember that we do have audio and video versions of the show on YouTube and iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, and most other major distribution platforms. You can go to anchor.fm/RLAfterShock and find your favorite platform or request your favorite way to listen, Bacon.
Request the favorite way to listen.
Yeah. You can request it and then they'll add it. Or we can add it manually. Oh. In fact, I recently manually added TuneIn. So we've got one of the biggest radio applications currently supporting our podcast. So if you're a TuneIn fan, if you want to listen to TuneIn, I actually do use TuneIn, so that's good. There you go then. Well, now you've got a way to listen to the podcast.
Oh,
so there you go.
Want to listen to me, Christ.
That's good shit. Right, anyway, we're going to head off for another week of action. We should be back next week, hopefully at some point in between trying to fit in getting home from Valencia and me going out to Dallas for the Mountain Dew League Global Challenge. This is going to be a fucking challenge. It is going to be a global challenge for me to get this fucking podcast sorted next week, but we'll work on it, Bacon, and we'll deliver all the news via the Twitter.
Just put it out now, go.
Yeah. Yeah, at RLAfterShock to get all your updates about the live editions of the show and everything else. But that's going to be it for another week here. Bacon, any final words before we head out?
No, because I want to go grab another beer. You've held me up too long. Go.
That's true, that. Right, anyways. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you back here next week for even more of the Aftershock. Woo! Studio audience!
And now we can pay them.